Ladies, my name is Michelle Christa Smith. I'm a professional ninja and a total badass. For the past 15 years, I've been working as a professional stunt woman and acrobat in film, television, and on stage. You've seen me in shows like Deadpool, Arrow, Supernatural, Supergirl, if you watch those shows. There's a longer list. That's not what I'm here to talk about. Do not let my job description fool you. You do not need to play a superhero to be a badass. In fact, I know that I'm looking at an audience full of badasses right now. Yeah. Every single person in this room has an inner badass just waiting to be unleashed. And I know this because I'm someone who has had to go on a journey of self-discovery and radical acceptance to find my own inner badass. The badassery that surrounds me is not something I was born with. It is something that I've had to cultivate within myself through a series of events whose struggle, heartache, and pain taught me how to courageously live my life with authenticity and vulnerability, which is exactly what my definition of a badass is. A badass is someone who is unapologetically and authentically themselves. One who has the courage to stand up and face their fears, and I'm not just speaking of physical fears. And a badass is someone who sees the power in vulnerability. Authenticity, courage, vulnerability. That is a badass. My journey to badassery begins when I was very young, in a unique way, and leads down a path to how I left a piece of me behind that was so integral to my being that I was not able to live in my authenticity until I found it again. My story has everything to do with my batons and what they meant to me. When I was 5 years old, I joined a sport called baton twirling. Now, baton's not a sport that generally people know anything about, but it involves precision, physics, and a high level of dexterity to artfully manipulate this small metal staff around your body while incorporating dance and gymnastics in an aesthetically pleasing way. It's athletic, it's artistic, and it is a lot harder than it looks. Now, I took baton very seriously. By 9 years old, I was competing at the Canadian National Championships. By 11, I was at my very first World Championships in Italy. I went on to compete at Worlds for 8 consecutive years, bringing home 1 bronze, 3 silver, and 1 gold medal. Thank you. Baton was everything to me. It was all I did, all I thought about, all that was important in my world. From ages 9 to 17, I trained upwards of 40 hours per week, which included a full dance and gymnastics schedule. I didn't go to school dances. I didn't participate in any extracurricular activities. I didn't even go to my own high school graduation. Baton always took top priority. Now, this formative time in my life was not without its own pain and despair. Being an elite athlete is tough, especially as a young kid. And I felt the weight of having to compete and perform at an extremely high level. Plus, at the time, my home life was becoming quite rocky, with my dad being diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, or MS, when I was 9, and my parents' eventual separation at 13. Baton became my escape, and in order to survive, I put on this persona of a strong, tough girl, and I used this facade-like armor to keep myself at an emotional distance from everything I really felt. It became very important for me to do well, to win, to be perfect. And while it's true that there was a lot of pressure placed on me from my immediate community, where do you think most of that pressure came from? Yeah, me. And that caused a lot of problems for me. I battled with performance anxiety for probably 10 years of my competitive career. My hands would be so sweaty and shaky that I could barely hold on to my baton. My heart would be pounding, and my mind is racing, second-guessing everything I'm doing or about to do. It was so distracting, and I never felt good enough. I was striving for perfection, and I never achieved it. Looking back, all I really wanted was to be the best in the world because I believed that then I would feel valued, I would feel loved, and I would feel worthy of love. I was searching for belonging and acceptance. When I was 19, I decided I was going to compete at my last and final World Championships in smoking hot Barcelona, Spain. I had every intention of ending my baton career on a high with a gold medal around my neck. It was my time. I was coming off a few successful years of winning nationals and placing in the top bracket at Worlds. I was gaining momentum, and I was sure that this would be the year I finally achieved that one piece of the puzzle that had always eluded me, an individual gold medal in senior women's freestyle. The audience was a sea of white paper fans flapping back and forth in an effort to keep cool in the blistering hot arena. I pulled up when they called my name, walked confidently onto the competition floor, and I hit my pose like I owned the joint. My music began, blasting its first few beats, and then over and over and over again, I watched as my baton hit the ground. Schwack, schwack, schwack. Paper fans moving lazily in the stands. As if outside my body, I watched as my freestyle completely fell apart. It was a slow motion train wreck come to life. I bombed. I left smoking hot Spain, devastated, heartbroken, and thoroughly embarrassed. Not to mention angry. I was angry at myself, and I was angry at my batons for letting me down. And I vowed to put them away after that and never speak of them again. And I did that for many years. When I returned from Spain, I moved to Vancouver, where I began a professional performance career. I joined the Circus, where I learned to climb and perform on all sorts of apparatus, including silks, hoop, and rope. I learned handstands and partner balancing. I loved the level of athleticism and creativity Circus offered. I performed in thousands of circus shows, everything from original productions to corporate gigs. And I had so much fun up there on stage. I felt so free because there was no trace of this performance anxiety, just a playful curiosity. However, I knew that circus wasn't the end game for me. There was just something missing in it. And I began to look further into what was possible for my career. That search brought me to stunts and martial arts. Now, I've never considered myself a courageous person or an adrenaline junkie. Unlike Lucita, I have no desire to go bungee jumping or climb Mount Everest. And I don't know if anybody else here has gone bungee jumping, but that is nuts. Why would you do that? Stunts, to me, is a very embodiment of physical courage, and it's not a career I had ever imagined myself getting into. Yet I found myself pursuing work that both terrified me and challenged me to my core. I have been scared out of my wits doing stunts, but I have always been able to gather my fear and focus on what I needed to do to perform it successfully. It's the ultimate up yours to that old performance anxiety that haunted me. But you know, it still didn't fill me. And it was looking as if my whole entire career was becoming less about the work and more about me trying to prove that I was good enough and that I was worthy. For however long my resume grew, I didn't feel successful. I felt that validation and acceptance eluded me. And throughout my entire professional career, I always felt like there was something missing, that there was this hole that circus and stunts couldn't fill. And all the while, there's this little insistent voice in my head nagging me, "Michelle, your batons, Remember your batons, use your batons. And rather than listening to that voice, I ignored it. I buried myself in my work and did what I do best: train and perform. 10 years into my career, I woke up one day, looked in the mirror, and didn't recognize myself. All I saw was an empty shell of a person. I was dangerously thin, physically, emotionally, spiritually exhausted. I didn't know who I was, what I was doing, or why I was doing it. Nothing in my life made sense. Everything I thought I should be doing, I did, and I had absolutely nothing to show for it. I had no hope, I had no joy, I had no direction, I had no partner. I had a 2-bedroom apartment and 2 cats. So from the outside, it looked like I had everything going on. On the inside, I had nothing. I decided then that the best thing for me was to take a walk. On an 800-kilometer walking pilgrimage back in smoking hot Spain called the Camino de Santiago. Thank you. It was 10 years to the month since that last World Championships that ended in such unforgettable results. All I had was my backpack, my passport, and the shoes on my feet. I left with nothing, and I found everything. It was here that I met myself for the very first time. I realized that I had been wearing the heavy armor of this tough chick as a way of surviving an elite performance and competitive career. But I wasn't that person. No, I was soft and feminine, vulnerable, quirky, and so much more. It was like meeting someone you've loved your entire life for the very first time. And above all, I remembered that I have this gift. I was a baton twirler, and that's pretty awesome. I remembered how important, thank you. I remembered how important baton was to me, and that when I suffered that defeat in Barcelona, I left the baton twirler behind and began living as someone who was angry, ashamed, and incredibly sad. What I learned on the Camino is that I was not my anger, I was not my shame, I was not my failure, I was not my success. I just was. I was a being who chose baton as a way of expressing myself. And I couldn't believe that I'd ever put them down because I learned that they were just as much a part of me as my own arms and legs. They're a piece of my soul. They're my connection to the universe. And through that opening I received on the Camino, I knew that when I returned home, my life was about to change and evolve in a way that I had never known before. I had to completely reevaluate what my life and my career meant to me. I had always defined myself by what I did, whether that be a stunt woman, an acrobat, or even a baton twirler. Now it was time to let that all go. And while it wasn't necessary for me to drop it all completely, what I needed to do was find the courage to release the perceived safety and security that idea brought me in order to create the space to step into something new. And what that meant was allowing my batons back into my reality while simultaneously stepping up to be the leader that I knew I was meant to be. The work that was going to fulfill me didn't exist yet. It was up to me to create it and blaze my own trail. And what I started with is I created my own brand of staff spinning, and I incorporated my entire baton twirling repertoire and combined it with my complete vocabulary of martial arts, acrobatics, and dance. I call it freestyle staff. And I called it freestyle staff because I wanted to pay tribute to my days as a baton twirler when I was competing my freestyle on the competition floor at Worlds. But also the word freestyle to me implies limitless opportunity, which is the way I've always envisioned baton to be. It's this extremely versatile skill that can be used in so many different ways with so many different tools, whether that be a staff, a sword, a lightsaber, an umbrella, a cane, a ball, a stick. There's so much there. And not only that, it teaches you patience, perseverance, coordination, focus, strength, flexibility. There's so much more. And I want to share that with people. I want people to have that ability and that awareness. So for the past 5 years, I have been diligently creating content, filming tutorials, videos, teaching classes or workshops all over the world, and creating a following around my unique spin on what is authentically me. It's so simple. And it's easy to say, I can't believe I didn't see that before. But I know I needed to go through all of that muck, all of that pain, heartache, shame, failure, and even success to reach that shining gem of clarity on the other side. What surprised me most, though, about this new journey is that when I finally had the courage to start sharing these skills, that when I did that, people started to open up to me and share their vulnerability and their story. I learned that freestyle staff is so much more than the physical skills. I learned that by sharing myself authentically, which entailed having the courage and the vulnerability to step up and do it, I had found a way to empower and encourage others. And that, to me, is really, really beautiful. And the journey to badassery never actually ends. It's constantly evolving and unfolding. And there are many ways to be a badass. You do not have to be a stunt woman or walk 800 kilometers across Spain. Living your badass is something that you can engage in your life every day. Whether that be taking a new class, coming to an event full of fearless badasses like this, or doing that one thing that scared you, like jumping off a bridge. The simple truth is that badassery is accessible to absolutely everyone, simply by accessing your unwavering courage, radical authenticity, and powerful vulnerability. And so I ask you this, as you're sitting in this room full of badass women, hearing these badass stories, maybe feeling like, oh, that's not me, that can't be me, ask yourself, where can I add badassery into my life? How can I feel more like a badass? Who is my badass? My badass is still certainly navigating her way down the path, still trying to figure this all out, facing new fears, new openings, new ways of expressing. For me, I'm still working on this dating thing. And let me tell you, allowing love into my life is way more terrifying than any stunt or performance I have ever done. But I am ready to take that path to partnership, to discover what it means to share my life and my experiences with someone else. Scary? Yes. But I'm willing to take that step forward and observe the results with unconditional love and acceptance. I know that I can handle anything and everything life hands me with authenticity, courage, and vulnerability, because I am calm, I am confident, I am courageous, I am creative, I'm a total badass. And so are you. Thank you.